we're working with them to prove that you can use a DAC smart helmet on site to augment the information specific to a particular asset on the asset itself. Now, in the first instance, that's just going to be about, understanding if the digital information matches the physical information. But if you think about this in terms of future potential down the line, theoretically, if you could recall the model for that asset and then compare it in real time to the actual asset, the actual physical asset, you could do your redlining then and there. You could understand if there were any compliance issues. So there's a whole host of amazing things that this is potentially helping us to move towards. Okay. Yeah. So that was 5 examples. There's a whole host of other examples. If you're interested or you want more information about any one of those, because I went through them quite quick, feel free to ask me. So what's next? I said at the beginning that we're using the CrossRail Innovate 18 program as a model for an industry-wide program. And we're working with Thames Tideway to develop that. And then we're also bringing in the likes of representatives from HS2 and CrossRail 2 to try and trial that industry-wide model and understand what the benefits could be and actually what it would need to look like and what the financing around that would look like. So that's something that's going on now, and I suppose just watch this space. So that's it. That's all from me at the minute. As I say, if you have any questions or if we don't have time to cover it now, feel free to drop me an email. I'm Maggie Brown at crossrail.co.uk.
Thank you very much, Maggie. Have you got any questions?
Hi. You spoke quite a bit about monitoring devices and technology. Have you taken into account any ethical considerations and where's the limit between monitoring and
So you're talking about this debate of sort of personal privacy, right? Versus, so when it becomes a health and safety risk, the concept of sort of personal privacy is trumped by the risk associated with not knowing where an operative is in a tunnel. So I think the important thing to mention is there's a difference also between knowing that Joe Smith is standing exactly at the corner of X, Y, and Z coordinates, and he's supposed to be over here, and versus there is someone standing at X, Y, and Z coordinates, and actually we need to go get him because the tunnel's collapsing. So you're right, there is a strong feeling, especially on the part of the unions, that this is a tricky line. And there's a lot of debate in general going on around sort of personal privacy and technology and how the two of those things, well, how technology is eroding personal privacy. You know, think of your iPhone and the intelligence built into that, and how you get applications that are perfect. Well, not applications, but advertisements that are based on your search history. So I think it's part of a larger debate in terms of how technology will impact personal privacy. From an industry perspective, the line has been knowing Joe Smith is there versus knowing someone is there. That will shift, I suspect.
Thank you.
Hi Maggie. Hi. Innovation 18 is obviously it's a knowledge management approach to innovation and sharing innovation. And your team seems to be very proactive in going out and pulling lessons learned out of the system, out of the project.
Yeah.
How proactive have the first year suppliers been to approach and want to physically share information and lessons?
Yeah.
Bear in mind this construction.
Yeah. So kind of pointing at the IP or potential IP issues, aren't you?
Well, it's coming more from a culture point of view.
So, I mean, I think increasingly if you look at the tier ones, there's a recognition that there's a requirement to shift the way that traditional approaches to construction have worked. And, you know, I think Costain, Skanska, LOR's got engineering excellence, and they were all, you know, Skanska's got their own innovation team, same with Costain, they've got their own knowledge management systems for innovation. They've been really, really supportive in delivering it, and actually they were fairly integral in making it a success. A lot of the sites, the innovation sort of working groups, the networks have been built by the tier ones. So there's, in some instances, actually in a lot of instances, more support from the tier ones than there might be from CrossRail, which is terrible to say. And I don't know why that is. I think, you know, there's this recognition that a shift needs to happen. There's also, if you're on site and actively delivering something, and you get frustrated by the fact that there's a process that's clearly broken, and you don't know where to go to fix that or to change it, then someone comes along and says, hey, we can help you, and that process changes and it makes your life easier. You see the change, and thus embrace the potential for innovation and its help more. So there's a bit of that as well. CrossRail doesn't necessarily get as involved in the delivery as the tier one. So if you make a difference to delivery, the tier ones will feel it. So they've been good, really. Very supportive.
Thank you very much. Any more questions?
Thanks for that. Brilliant. Is there any, in terms of 2025 and digital broadband and things like that, are there any consideration given this early to the Internet of Things and doors that count the amount of times they're open and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, okay. So Andrew Wilson-Home is sitting on he's just been, I think I can say this, he's just been elected the head of the Construction Leadership Council, which is pretty integral in terms of driving the digital 2025, the goals, I guess, have been set by the government. And his vision was always to use Innovate 18 as kind of a leaping off platform to inject a bit of the thinking around this that needs to happen in the industry in order to get to where we want to end up. Have we been able to get to an Internet of Things mentality within CrossRail? I would say no. It's something that we've tried to work towards, but most of what we do is sort of fixing a process here, maybe through the use of an application or a new sort of digital approach, and then doing it over here for a different process, but actually being able to connect it all together is sort of the next step. There's thinking about it, but we're certainly not there yet. And I suspect that we won't be for a little while. But Thames Tideway, HS2, future major infrastructure projects are already developing their innovation programs from the get-go. And they're going to be embedded in design, you know, at a point where we weren't even thinking about innovation. We didn't get the program till about 4 years ago. So it was almost too late to really connect the dots, as it were. So.
Any more? One more. There's always one.
Chat forever.
Yeah.
I love this. Stay here for the rest of the afternoon.
I like to make it a simple one. Are there any innovations that you've tried to implement or educate people of those that have been actively rejected?
Oh, God. Yes. Yes, the answer is yes. So the adoption piece is by far the hardest. And we, to be honest, weren't set up to be able to have the resources to support full-scale adoption. So one of our early, a good example of this is one of our earlier innovations, which we've done a Six Sigma analysis on, proved there's a huge amount of savings from a time perspective and a whole host of other benefits, was a digital redlining app. So quite simple, this move away from the traditional paper-based, drawing your lines on, taking back to the office, scanning it in, sending it to the right person for them to review it. Just a move to, hey, let's use a tablet, do it all digitally. Pretty simple, right? We did a proof of concept at Paddington. We demonstrated that there was 65% reduction in time associated with that process as a result of its use. We made available licenses that our program had paid for to whatever contractors and CrossRail employees wanted to use it. That was about 3 and a bit years ago, and we're only now, just only now, at the tipping point where we've got several different contracts actually actively using it on a day-to-day basis. So it's sort of, there was a lot of resistance, and a lot of it was around kind of contractual issues and the fact that this was a new technology that came out of left field and it hadn't been specified, and if you did specify it, then inevitably there would be a cost associated with it. It's also a feeling that, we've done things in this way and it works. Why are you messing with, what works? Why are you doing something that is challenging the process that's been tried and proven? So there was a lot of resistance, and it took some stubborn, continued pushing to get it to a point where it is slowly being adopted.
So even though the benefits were apparent, the timeline between first awareness and first use or first take has been still quite substantial.
It's hard. People don't like change. That's the bottom line, and it takes a lot to convince them that it's worth it.
Especially in that, what you're trying to replace there, effectively is the pencil or the pen as well.
Yeah.
Something that's so simple that,
Exactly.
that people go on. Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah, it is. It's hard.
Okay, thank you very, very much for your appreciation. Right, an information-rich